Hello and welcome back to Backtracking. This is part 2 of the Faith No More episode. Did you enjoy your break? Are you doing well? Good! Let's move on. So next is Faith No More's fifth album titled King for a Day, for a Lifetime. They don't actually say ... I was just adding that because it's ellipses. Released in 1995, it was released through Slash Records again, but this time was only produced by Andy Wallace, who, I looked it up, not related to Matt Wallace, believe it or not. It's actually kind of unique in that it's the only Faith No More album in the band's catalogue to not be produced by any of the band members themselves. It's also unique for a couple of other reasons, but first, quick fire facts. So, this is the band's first album without Jim Martin, as he left after Angel Dust was released, and it was replaced by a dude named Trey Spruance. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that the album's production was slowed as keyboard player Roddy Bottom needed time off to grieve after the death of his father and of Kurt Cobain, as Roddy was a close friend of Courtney Love, who was Cobain's wife at the time. So, yeah, it kind of sucks when that happens, and it could also explain the 3-year gap between this album and Angel Dust. Speaking of this album, it's considered by many critics to be the first dip in Faith No More's quality, with many complaining about the band going through too many different genres on the album. Even Wikipedia just lists the album's genre as various. If I had to describe it though, I would say that it sounds like the real thing, just without any of the funk rock stuff. And also not as good as the real thing, but I still quite enjoy King for a Day. It's one of those things where the weirdness of it is all very endearing, keeps your ears tuned in, you know? Even then, the comparison to the real thing isn't fully fair, as there's more of a metal overall feeling to this album, by which I mean that a majority of the tracks seem to lean that way. There is some jazz here and there, and some other genres, but not as much as they've gone over in the previous two albums. Whereas most critics felt like this one was too experimental, I challenge them and say that it was a surprisingly normal effort by the band. I mean, sure, the structure is a bit all over the place, but that's fairly commonplace for the band at this point. I kind of feel like this album should get more credit. It's like defending the band's first album to Chuck Mosley. I just don't see what the big issues are with it. Mike Patton has a deeper growl and scream to his voice, but his clean singing is on point still. Trey's guitar works pretty good for his first outing with the band, despite having no solos. Roddy's keyboard playing does take a backseat, but it's there when it matters, and it adds a nice subtle backdrop to things. Billy's bass plays some really solid riffs, as always showcasing less aggression but still going hard, even with more technicality. And Mike Bunn's drumming is still good, with a more speedy aspect of things, playing well the tempo changes and just being awesome as usual. Standout songs include Ugly in the Morning, Star AD, What a Day, Carajo Voador, I know I'm not saying that right, and my favourite in The Gentle Art of Making Enemies. King for a Day may be a strange piece of work to some, but it's still a solid album and I really enjoyed it. Heavy, if a bit nonsensical at times, its weirdness and surprisingly good production value may just surprise you, and I can recommend this one, weird as it sounds. Next up is their sixth album titled Album of the Year. Released in 1997, still through Slash Records, it was produced this time by the band's bassist Billy Gould, as well as someone named Riley Mussyman. I know I'm saying that name wrong, but I don't care. It was the band's last album before their breakup, and features another layout change as the band replaced Trey Spruance with Dean Menta, and then Menta left and was replaced by John Hudson. And goodness me, this album is just dripping in ironic circumstances. For example, despite being called Album of the Year, it's seen as their worst piece of work by critics, even to the point of being a critical and commercial flop in the band's native USA, but at the same time it was well received in other countries, particularly Australia, where the album sold so many copies they went platinum, whilst also having high sales in New Zealand and Germany. You really can't make this shit up, folks. As for my own feelings about the album, it's not great. It is the band's most straightforward effort, with the odd, softer sort of piano song and some slight instances of jazz and funk thrown in because why not? But the album just drones on and is so damn incoherent most of the time. Sort of like my videos. Everything has a way too laid-back feeling to it, and I don't like it. I also don't like the just straight-up brain-numbing style of metal that the band had tried so hard to avoid playing up until that point. And up until that point, they succeeded. Pardon me. There's just a lot about this album that just doesn't sit right with me. The musical structures are repetitive for the most part, and when they do decide to change things up, it's already too late and the damage has already been done. The lyrics are, well, okay. Faith No More is known for having abstract lyrics and such, but to say such dull shit and repeat that dull shit within the same song with the same unchanging structure and tone just makes things sound so boring. The band honestly sound like they couldn't be asked. Still, I will grant them some leeway, as Mike Patton himself isn't a big fan of this album, even saying that they were starting to sound like shit around this point, and sad to say I'm pretty inclined to agree. The album's production also can't decide what it wants to do. It makes the less important things sound more important and vice versa, and it was the band's first instance of using Pro Tools. The band even commented that there were some songs that wouldn't have sounded as good without Pro Tools and that they were just throwaway tracks, but that really wasn't a point in the album's favour. I usually talk about the band's performances by this point, but I've said my feelings on them already. Nobody sounds like they're having fun, and that makes listening to the album itself just a bore and a chore. How can I enjoy it when the band themselves even can't be asked to? Anyway, standout songs include Naked in Front of the Computer, Mouth to Mouth, Collision, and my favourite, Homesick Home. Album of the Year it's just awful. It's boring, babbling, repetitive, and just poorly produced. I really didn't like this, and I can't really recommend it. Just stay away from it. It's really for your own good in this case. It's probably also the most negative review I've given so far in this season of Backtracking, so I've been mostly positive up until this point. And finally, we reach the band's 7th album and most recent release in Sol Invictus, which is Latin for Unconquered Sun. Released in 2015 through Reclamation Records and Ipecac Records and produced by band bassist Billy Gould with a helping hand of mixing from longtime producer Matt Wallace, Sol Invictus is pretty fucking good. It was the band's first album after their reunion in 2009, and all of the band members during the Album of the Year era returned for this one and are still all in the band to this day. Progress! So, yeah, it seems that the band's lineup was a blessing in disguise, especially since their last album was bloody horrible. Sorry, I'm being way too harsh on it, so let's focus on this album. This album, which is good and awesome and easy to listen to, not the previous album, which was none of those things. It's one of the band's heavier works, and it's easy to get into. In terms of experimentation, it could be considered a sister album to The Real Thing, just not going to as many crazy places with the genres as that album did. There's more straight-up metal, a la Album of the Year, but there are more different things that sprinkled onto it, whereas it was the other way around in some previous works. Also, and this is crucial, the band actually sounds like they're having fun. There are some moments that made me laugh and smile a bit too, which I haven't felt since I listened to The Real Thing. The band proved that even 20 years after their previous release, they still have a sense of humour and weirdness that just endears people to them. But besides the humour is the aforementioned experimentation, which adds some moments of ska at times, but it's still got the band's heavy, the core heavy metal style, which we're all used to. It even has some throwback to the funk days too, which is a nice little nostalgia trip when it presents itself. But ultimately, despite the throwback to their old albums and such, and despite having more of a sense of fun and humour, the album does show a surprising degree of maturity. Sol Invictus' polish presents that in a really good way, and adding more spice to the structure of the album helps too. Billy Gould sure does show that he knows his stuff behind the booth, and with Matt Wallace's help on the finishing touches, as opposed to getting down the centre of things just right, is not just a clear difference, but an unexpectedly welcome one. Speaking of band members, let's keep speaking about the band members. It's the last time for this episode, trust me. Mike Pann's vocals haven't lost their touch, and they continue to be a highlight. He does take on some more spoken word stuff, which works surprisingly well. Billy's bass still drives things deep, even if it's not as pronounced as I'd like it to be. John Hutton's guitar has improved vastly, playing great chugging riffs and absolutely filthy solos, just disgusting, I love them. Roddy Bottom gets more keyboard time, even playing some creepier sounds to fit with some of the weirdest songs on this album. And Mike Bourne's drumming is still awesome too, showing good work and a steady groove behind the set. Standout songs include Motherfucker, Separation Anxiety, Superhero, Black Friday, and my favourite in Matador. Sol Invictus is one of the band's shorter works, but it marks one hell of a comeback and shows that, even almost 20 years since their last release, they can still go and go hard. I can recommend this one. So, with that said, let's round the albums up. Fair Album is definitely The Real Thing. Besides containing the song Epic, I feel like the album is the band's most diverse piece of work and their most balanced, also arguably the most successful and best produced. Least favourite is Album of the Year. Despite the hilarious irony behind it all, and I did quite laugh when I was looking that up, I just can't bring myself to like or even care much for the album itself. It's mind-numbingly dull and so repetitive that it makes one forget how good the band can be. Anyway, that'll about wrap it up for this episode. Join me for my next video, which is tomorrow, because I'm going to be doing my first Music of the Month episode for the month of January. And then after that, I'm going to be doing the next UFC event, which is UFC 221, I believe. Hang on, let me look that up really quick. Yep, it is UFC 221. Awesome. Then, join me for the next Backtracking episode, which could be out before then, as I'll go over Missouri's own Story of the Year. And as always, thank you for listening. You're awesome. Bye-bye.